Hope everyone had a great new year. Welcome to the January 2024 meeting of Access Europe. And thank you to all of those who have turned up. So far, we've got around 20 people, which is excellent for the time of year. And this month, we have spread beyond Europe. And for the first time, we have a presenter from India. Ramachandran Pillai, who is usually known as A.P.R. Pillai, is going to be doing a presentation about class modules and a very different approach to coding forms. You can find his long-established website, msaccesstips.com, which has got hundreds of articles, well worth looking at. And if you want more details about this month's presentation, and if you want to download the files, go to either my website or to the official Access Europe website. At this point, I'm going to pass over to Ramachandran and welcome A.P.R. If you would like to share your screen and introduce yourself properly, over to you.
Good evening and Happy New Year to everybody. I am Ramachandran Pillai, hailing from the state of Kerala in India. For the last 25 years, I have devoted myself to deepening my expertise in VBA and access development. My journey began in 1996 when I took the role of an Access and Excel developer within the internal audit department of a renowned automobile sales and services company in the Sultanate of Oman, where I contributed until 2010. During this extensive career, I am passionate about sharing the access development knowledge and insights. This led me to establish a website, msaccesstips.com, in September 2006, under the title Learn MS Access Tips and Tricks. I have been sharing practical tips and programming solutions through this website for MS Access design and development. As a fellow VBA fan, I understand the challenges of maintaining clean and efficient VBA code in the form module. Today, I am thrilled to introduce you to a method that I stumbled upon, experimented with, and found to be a game changer in VBA event subroutine coding. Join me on this journey as we explore the power of standalone class modules and how they can make your coding life easier and more enjoyable. On this particular topic, I recently published about 20 articles on my website, msaccesstips.com, explaining this concept and implementation techniques in detail with the practical examples in standalone class modules. Feel free to download a sample database from each article page, providing a hands-on demonstration of the coding logic employed within the standalone class module. These sample databases serve as practical illustrations of the coding techniques discussed in these articles. Before delving into the intricacies of streamlining event procedures within the standalone class module, allow me to present an interesting database demonstration. Of course, the details of this is only a simple database. The details of other methods and details of that is available on my website in those 15 to 20 articles published in there. And this is only a sample database we are going to look at. This is a database there are three forms with a simple highlighting of text box method that we are using it here. This is a simple form. And this form, actually, the code used here is the normal coding procedure that we write codes on the form module. Let us look at the code. This is the normal way we write the code on the form module. There are about 10 text boxes on the form. And for each text box, we have to write one go to focus and one lost to focus event procedure to highlight and reset the color on the text box when it is become current. And this is the normal coding procedure that we see. And in this, if we add another text box on the form, of course, we have no other choice but to write the code manually for those. We will add two text boxes here. I think one will be enough because it is not going to highlight anyway. We will save it. Here it is. it doesn't highlight because we have not written in code. We are going to look at a different form. This is a copy of the same form with a few text boxes on the form, and we will add 2 more text boxes on this particular form and see what happens to it. Now we'll save the form, open it again. Now let's see whether this particular text box that we have added is getting highlighted. Now let's look at the code behind the form module and what trick we introduced in the form module to highlight the newly added text boxes automatically. Now we have written some automation code here on the form module itself. And plus with a class module, we have introduced a class module which the go to focus and lost focus event procedure is only one pair of go to focus and lost focus event procedure. Go to focus event procedure actually calls a function. This I have not shown on the other form. There is a function on the standard class standard module, and we are calling it from here. We will look at the standard module for the functions. There are 3 properties we are going to change: the color, border and background color, and the background style. There are 3 properties we will be changing the color for highlighting. So before changing the color, we have declared 3 temporary variables to save the existing color attributes, and then change the color with the new color what we have defined. And when the lost focus event fires, and that saved color will be put back, so that if any special formatting that the user has made on the text box will be retained when we go to the next text box after losing focus. Now, on the form module, we have automated means we have declared the single class module with 2 subroutines, go to focus and lost focus subroutines. Plus, there are 2 properties we have declared here. One is the text box access text box object with the qualifying qualifying keywords with events to capture the event from the form. When the form fires the event, or the text box on the form fires the event, we can capture it here. The details we will discuss later on. And one form property also declared here. This is with the public scope only, so that you don't have to write the property procedures to assign values into these 2 for the time being. So this is the class module with the text box object instance qualified with the keyword with events to capture the event. And this is what we are using on the form module here. This, for each text box, we can create instance of this class module and assign it with the form property and the text box control reference to the properties what we have seen in there, and enable the event procedures on go to focus and on lost focus. We have selected the event procedure text from the drop down list normally on the form property sheet, text property sheet. Instead of that, we are assigning it directly through the program. Now we have declared a collection object also. When we create an instance and enable with the event procedures, we have to store it somewhere. Normally, it can be an array element of the object by redefining and increasing the array elements one by one for each text box. Instead of that, we can save a few lines of code by using the collection object so that the instance goes into the collection object. And we are repeating for all the text boxes on the form. It will be taken into all the instances for each text box will be created and their references will be assigned to the properties and stored in the collection object. And when the form is opened, this happens automatically. And the instances are ready in memory in the collection object to capture the event when fired from the form. That's how it works. So we have added 2 text boxes on the form and it automatically takes in for highlighting. Now, what I am trying to say is, even though this can be automated on the form module, this procedure can grow depending on other controls we are supposed to introduce on the form, because command buttons, combo boxes, list boxes, all those controls will come on the form in a project. So naturally, this will keep on growing. Now here you can put a separate line of code that can check whether it is a command button encountered on the way of scanning the entire form module. We plan to move this automation code into a separate module rather than writing the code in the form module, because we want the form module free of any code so that we can take it into class modules in a structured, streamlined fashion, and management of code in the form module, class module also easier to manage and maintain, and direct access to code in the class module rather than opening a form in design view, select the control and display the property sheet, and then select the event property to get to the code, because always the form module will be mixed up with the other event procedures of other controls. The module which I have shown to you earlier may not be, all the codes will be next to each other as we have seen on the first form. We plan to remove this particular automation procedure into another class module so that we can leave the form with only a few lines of code, and the entire code, VBA code, can be put in class module. That's what we are going to do next in the next form. So let us look at the third form. This will close. Here you can see it is the same number of controls here. So here also we will take a look at the controls and take a copy of them together and put it as a separate set of controls on the form. Its name is not important here. So far as it is the textbox object, we can simply check the type of the control, whether it is a textbox or not, and it works. You don't have to, of course, in this particular case, it is working, but there are event procedures when you want to separate not only got focus, lost focus before update and all those things. When it is required, naturally, we have to check the name of the text box to write particular specific code for that text box. Let's see, we have completely. Let's see whether all of them are getting highlighted. It is getting highlighted, but not in the correct order, because the tab order is got something mixed up in there. That's why it is not highlighted. All the text boxes are highlighting. Now let us add 2 text boxes manually, where that also takes in for highlighting or not. Let us see. 1 and 2. So it gets highlighted. Now let's look at the form module of this particular form. How much code we have on the form. We only total say 7 lines of code. This code is actually we have introduced another class module to transfer that automating subroutine into a separate class module here, doing the same thing what we have done on the form module with this particular procedure. And instead of this class module taking, in this particular instance, we were taking this class module into the module of form 1. And here, we call it a wrapper class because a textbox object is inserted in there with the WithEvents keyword. The wrapper class actually declares on the intermediary class module or automating class module. We have declared it here. And the form module, form object has property, and the collection object. This earlier we put on the second form what we have seen. Now the property procedure is there for accepting the form object from the form load event procedure on the form module. And after getting the form object and assigned it to the form object property declared on the top, you are calling the class init subroutine or the automating subroutine. Earlier we run from the form module, and it checks for the event textbox control, and the whatever we did on the form module is done here. And what we are doing here is creating instance of this particular class module, assigning the form object because form property is in there. And there is the control reference or the text box reference for one text box, one instance of the class module. If 15 text boxes are there, then 15 instances of this particular class module will be created, and individual text boxes references are assigned to the instance. And there is only, as you can see, there is only one pair of word focus and lost focus event procedures on that particular class module. So we are technically reusing the same set of code for each text box on the form. So here we were able to completely remove the code from the form module and put it in the class module. And you can have direct access to this code for maintenance or debugging purposes. You don't have to struggle with the form design and go to the object properties to get to the code and for modification. That takes a lot of time, and it wastes a lot of time in development of a particular project. This is easier way. And of course, the structuring of the event procedure is not always in this way. If you have 15 text boxes and 15 go to focus event procedures, 15 instances of procedures, all of them can be written within the single go to focus event procedure. We don't have to write 15 times. So what I am saying this because here this particular function is called for all the text boxes on the form. But go to focus event can have some other purpose also or some other action also to be coded within the go to focus event procedure. That time you have to check the text box name, say quantity or unit host or tags, things like that, and then write a specific code for that. And that is coming next. I hope this will give you an idea or how we can actually transfer the code to the class module and free up the form module for designing purpose only. This was the slide I was supposed to show. This is the screenshot of the third form what we have seen and the code. Now, I was mentioning about the automating class module and the wrapper class module and form module. The arrangement of this particular set of class modules will be something like this fashion. The wrapper class will be declared in the intermediary class or object initializing class or automation class, whatever, go between class module. The automating class module you have to declare in here. And this goes for not only text box. If you have command button, you will be creating separate wrapper class for command button so that the command buttons on the form can be, event of the command button can be captured in the wrapper command button wrapper class. Similarly, list box or combo box will have separate. So all the type of objects on the form and their event procedures can be segregated into separate class initializing wrapper classes and write their code shared fashion so that we don't have to search for the code on the form module. It will be all mixed up in this form module. So here it is organized properly so that we can directly get to the form code and event procedures for maintenance. Let's move on to the next one. Now, how we are forced to write the code on the form module. That's what we are going to explore now. Because whenever an event is to be coded, we are asked to select a certain options on the property sheet, and we select event procedure on the property sheet of an object. And naturally, when you select that, it will open up an empty event procedure step, and we keep writing code in there. But how this is made possible by the access system, that's what we are going to explore. Once we know that trick, we can actually move that procedure to class modules and write our code there. That's how we are writing the code. That's how we have written those codes we have seen earlier. Now we have object browser on the VBA editing window, and the object browser in the left side, you can see a browser window is shown here, and the library list I have selected access object, and there classes, access object classes are shown here. Here in this particular list, you will find the form, combo boxes, command buttons, list boxes. All of those objects are defined using class modules. And here we have taken the text box as an example. And the text box, we have selected the text box members, properties and events and the methods are all listed in here. Now here, the after update event is marked by the blue color, and you can see the icon, the lightning icon is showing to the left of the after update event. And if you look at the left side bottom panel, the after update event is declared with the keyword event and the name of the event. And if there are any parameters are to be given, then that has to be given within bracket. There is another property above the event property, you can see with the same name, which is actually appearing on a property sheet where we actually code the macro name or function name or the text event procedure. And accordingly, based on the option selected in that property, the event is fired and the event procedure we are supposed to write on the form module. It will be captured by the text box object on the form, and we write the event procedure in the form module. And there is another property below the event property with the same name, but with the suffix macro. And this is, I think, the program actually detects what we have coded on the after update event property and execute the options. Now, if you look at the right side panel, I have selected the sample3 database and I have a form. You can see in the left panel, I have selected form user defined. And there is a text box on the right panel. You can see I have created a text box with the name order quantity, and it is highlighted with the blue color. The instance of the text box, you can call it, because when you actually added text box on the form, it is qualified with the keyword WithEvents. You can see that it is shown on the bottom panel, how it is declared by the system automatically on when it is added on the form. WithEvents order quantity as member of the text box. And this is how it is declared on the form. So here what we can learn from this is you have to declare an event with the keyword event and the event name. And when it is an instance is created on the form or report, it is declared with the or qualified with the keyword with events, so that when the event is fired from the system or from within the textbox object, it is captured by this particular instance with the qualifying keyword with events. So it detects the event is fired and how it is can be captured in the target form module. And we write the event procedure on the form module, which is executed when we select the option event procedure in the earlier mentioned after update property. And now we have to look at this little bit detail in the next slide. If anybody have any questions at this point, please you can ask now.
Okay, thank you. There were a couple of things that came up in the chat earlier on. Some of those have been partly answered, I think, already, but let me ask you anyway. Neil wanted to know why you used the form unload event to clean up rather than the form close event. Wondered if it was to make use of the cancel argument in the unload event, or he wondered alternatively, would the close event be more robust?
Yeah, this is the unload event is, I think, more flexible when we use it on the form close event is concerned, because this can actually safeguard from closing by mistake by somebody by clicking on the forms close button on the right top corner. So this, when fired, we can actually check whether the user wanted to close this form intentionally or it has happened by mistake. So we can ask them whether you really want to close this form at this point. If the response is yes, then we can close it. Otherwise, we can cancel that event and safely give the form back to the user. So it is better than, in my point of view, better than the close event.
Okay, thank you ever so much. I think that covers it very well. Aid asked a two-part question. I'll give you the first part. Is it necessary to keep the object alive in the collection after changes have been made?
The changes are made in running time or real time. It is never stored on the form, as we do normally by putting the form in a design view and change the property with different values and then close the form by after saving and all that. That is not happening here, because we are making changes at real time while running time, and it takes effect on the property. But when we close it, all those things will be lost. And the collection object is that collection object, we are maintaining the instances of the objects in memory so that it can capture the event when fired from the form. The initialization procedure, what we have seen earlier, is what was creating all those instances enabled with event procedures and all those things. When it is assigned to the instances, we are finally moving it in the collection object so that it can remain in memory and then fire the event and capture the event and execute the event procedures. When you close the form, everything is released from memory and finally discard the collection object. It's not that way. It is not working that way.
Thank you. That's great. And the second part of his question, he asked this quite early on. You were on the first of your two class module-based forms, and he said, why not have the collection object in the class module? Well, of course, you did that in your second class module form anyway, so you've already covered that. So I think we can move on at that point there. Other things we'll do at the end of your session. Okay, that's you.
So we'll move on to the next slide. We will discuss a little detail on this event and raising events and with events. Now, the three keywords we have to keep in mind: event, raise event, and with events. The three keywords and its usage is understood properly, then we can redirect the event procedure from the class module of the form to standalone class module, and whatever we do on the form module can be done in the class module. So event, the keyword event is used for declaring an event. For example, we take the exit event as an example. Here you can see the event is declared below event exit, and there is a parameter to be passed, just like form unload case, cancel as integer. This is a true or false case. This is how an event is declared in the textbox case. Now it comes to the raise event, because this raise event function is nowhere listed in the documentation from Microsoft. This is the raise event, how it functions is not shown on the documentation, but the raise event is discussed there. Now the raise event is used to fire the event if the event procedure option is selected on the property. As I have shown earlier, the after update event, if you enter the event procedure text, select from the drop down list, then the raise event action is fired. Even otherwise, you can code either a macro name or a function name. These are actually external programs, but the event is concerned, it is coming from within the object. All event declared within the object is raised. The raise event function or raise event method is calling the event procedure written on the form module or on the class module. The macro name or function names is detected when you write the option or when you select the option, the property, something like on exit as string. This is the property actually shown to us to select the options, to code the options. So if you write the macro name, it directly execute. The event fires when you code something there, and it executes directly. At that time, there is no need of any class module on the form. Without the class module, the event can fire these two options, macro or function. It simply calls the macro name or function name to execute from outside source. But in the case of event, it needs the raise event keyword or function call or subroutine call is required to execute the event procedure that we write in the form module or class module. And for that purpose, to identify the event coming from the text box or whatever object it is fired from, then the instance of that object when it is created on the form will be qualified with the keyword WithEvents. For example, when we select a text box from the toolbox and put the text box on the form, the MS Access system automatically qualifies that particular instance of text box with the keyword WithEvents. And this raise event and WithEvents, of course, are related, and all the three are on the same object. That is the different. It identifies the raise event function or raise event program or raise event action with the keyword WithEvents, and then it is fired. All these three things are related to the object, and all the three is connected to particular object. But in the macro and function name are external programs that is simply called from outside. There is some difference in this case. If you code the macro name on the form property or object property sheet, it executes directly. This can be called from the event procedure also. But on the form module property sheet, when you enter directly or you in the initialization process, if you instead of event procedure, if you write macro name, then it actually modifies the property on the form. This is directly written on the form in real time, but when we close the form, it goes away. It will not remain there saved. On this particular point, I think the question earlier, the event procedure, when it is that option is selected, we need the WithEvents keyword on the object instance we have created, and this is automatically given. And then the event when fires from the object, from within the object, it captures it on the instance where the instance is created. It is normally we create on the form or report, and it captures, and the general rule is that wherever the instance is created, its parent module is where the object event procedure must be written with the object name or instance name like text0 or quantity or unit price. So that name will be the prefix of the event procedure. So text0 after update, and there is an underscore separating both these things. It will be written in the parent module of the target form or class module. And here the example I have shown in here, sub text0 underscore exit cancel as integer. And the code will go immediately after selecting the option event procedure on the property, above mentioned property sheet. It automatically open empty event procedure step, and we write the code in there. So these three things must be kept in mind while we try to transfer the event procedure coding from the form to the class module. I think it is clear. So let's move on to the next one. Now, to transfer the form module event procedure code into class modules, we will create object level wrapper classes. We know that WithEvents keyword must be used to qualify the text box instance or any object instance to capture the fired event from within that object. So since we know that rule, we are declaring a property in a class module with qualified with the WithEvents and text. Here, this particular wrapper class is for text box only. So all the text box event procedures will be transferred into the single wrapper class and their event procedures will be written here. Now there is a form property also declared in here. So most of the wrapper classes for command buttons, list boxes, combo boxes, all of them will have separate wrapper classes, and they will be declared in this fashion. That is, the object property plus a form property will be declared in the global area. Then the property procedures. These object properties have private scope, so we have to add the property procedures to assign values into those properties. So these two sets of form property get set property procedures. And for the text box also, the set and get property procedures are there. When we initialize the object instance or we create the class module instance or wrapper class instance, we have to assign the form object and text box object into these properties. Then only we can capture the event and run the subroutine in the wrapper classes. Now coming to the streamlined and structured coding, event procedure coding is concerned, I have given an example here for before update event procedure. Now the text box object instance, I have given the instance name txt. So naturally the txt will be the event procedure prefix, and here I have given before update event as an example here. Now how to code the or how to streamline the event procedures in the wrapper class is the example, one example I have given here. Now, the object is concerned or the event procedure is concerned. If you have, say, 10 or 15 text boxes on the form and all of them are needed the before update event or lost to focus or go to focus event procedures, all of them will be called in the single event procedure. Now here you can see the global area code. So whatever code you put in here, like the highlight of the text box we have seen earlier, and it will be put in the global area or it is applicable to all the text boxes in the form. Now if we have different now before update can have different requirements for each text box. In that case, we will check the name of the text box. When the event is fired from a particular text box, before update event is fired, you have to check the name of the text box. And if it is found text 0, then whatever code we intend to write the before update event on the form, that can be put in here. So it will execute that particular code for this particular text box. So like the text box 12, another code, different code. Then there is cases where 3 or 4 text boxes can have some common code. So instead of individually writing one below the other, we can actually group it together and write the code here. And other code also can be put in here. Now, the end result is that you don't have to write before update event for each text box. All of them will come in here within this particular before update event procedure and executes the code normally. And while modifying or maintenance or any type of management, modify, write new code, all those things can be, you can directly come into those particular wrapper class and do it here rather than struggling with the form design and selecting of the individual object and displaying their property sheet and then go to the particular text box code to modify it. And that kind of code management procedure takes a lot of time and it wastes a lot of time in development of a particular project. I think those things can be saved a lot, save a lot of time. We will move to the next. This is an example how, since we know the rules of event, raise event, and with events procedure, we can define our own event, and the events must be defined within the object. Now here we have defined this is the form 1. We have defined in the form module an event with the name message with the text as parameter. Then there is a raise event command with the message and the text is passed as the event parameter. Now this particular text box what you have given here, we can type something in here and the change event fires and the raise event will fire the user defined event. And here you can see in form 2, I have created this. We can take it as like a text box and their events. And we have created an instance in the form module 2. And here the with events, with the with events keyword, I have declared the form 1 class module. You can see the form 1 class module actually represents the class module of form 1. And it is qualified with the keyword with events. And the object name is form. Now, when the event is fired, it is captured in here. And the event procedure is coded here. You can see form, message, and the parameter is passed in here. And that value is actually shown to the label up here on form 2. So when you type something in this particular form one, both the form must be kept open. And when you type something in here, in the text box, hello world here, it will automatically appear character by character, since the change event fires when each character you type in here. That will be shown character by character here. It will appear in the second form label control. So if you know the rules, we can define our own events in addition to whatever events provided on the controls, and that can be also used along with the built-in events. And this is it. Any questions at the point?
Yes, there's a question from Neil and Adrian. They ask, is it really necessary to store the form name or the form reference in the class module when the form reference itself can be derived from the control?
Yeah, the form reference is required because when we work with the text box, say validating some text box or calculating values from a particular text box on the form, we need to refer to other controls on the form also. For example, quantity multiplied by unit price gives total. So naturally, the quantity text box value we need to read from the form and multiply it with the current text box, write the result to another text box. So all these kind of operation must be done from the class instance. For that, we need the form reference. That's why in each wrapper class we include a form reference also. So,
yeah, I think the question was more, why do you explicitly pass the form reference?
yeah.
You can infer the reference from the control, but I actually do that a lot in my classes. It's kind of a shortcut.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just to make things clear. Is it the same for you?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Actually, it's more of a comment rather than a question. Chris said that I don't think he uses class modules that much. And he says as an alternative, he just adds a function name followed in brackets by the word form in the property sheet. Now, of course, you've already covered this point anyway. It works perfectly well, and it's an equally valid alternative to using class modules. But as somebody's already pointed out in the chat, it needs to be added manually by the developer, whereas with class modules, the event happens automatically. Does that cover that point well enough, do you think, APR?
Yeah.
Alessandro, do you want to read out Chris's other question?
Yeah. Can class events pick up event parameter? Chris makes the example of the keypress event, which has a parameter named keycode. Can it be captured by the class?
Yes, it can be taken because like a mouse move event, it's actually four different parameters are given to the when the event is fired, like it's button shift, Y coordinates and all that. Similarly, the key press can be key down, things like that can actually passes the parameter when the event is fired, and it can be captured in the class module.
Yeah, I mean, the parameters are handled by so whatever event you add to your class, it will have the correct parameters automatically.
Thank you ever so much, Ramachandran. That is an excellent presentation. And having avoided class modules for much of my development career, I think I'm finally persuaded to go back and reuse them, partly to cut down on the amount of repetitive code, but also I do like the idea of streamlining form code so that you can actually focus on the design of the form. So I will be investigating this. And in fact, I've done some early experiments on this recently myself. And I'm going to go back to my slide with your website on in order to show people the articles that you've written. So here are the web links for today's session. The top one is Ramchandran's own website, which I'll come to shortly. And the next two are the Access Europe pages on my website and the official website. I'm going to click on my website here. And first of all, there is a link which has got the presentation and the two example databases he's using for you to download. You can also get them from the official website. But also, let me just click on A.P.R's website. There are literally hundreds of web pages here, but this particular topic he started about 9 months ago, and he's got a list of all of the different related articles for it. And as you can see, there is a total of 28 at the moment, 20 new ones and 8 others that he's adapted that are related to that there. I would strongly recommend having a look at those. They build up in complexity. I've not got to the end of them yet because I'm not really highly skilled in the use of class modules, though interestingly I'm using them for my own purposes in a separate project at the moment, which is about to be published on my website. And Carlos, are you around at the moment?
Yes, I am.
Great. Next month we have an excellent presentation, I'm sure, coming up from the founder of MC Tools or MZ Tools. I've forgotten what you said yesterday. Carlos Quintero has been developing this excellent add-in, which is for any Office application, including Access, but also wider than that. And next month, he's going to be showing a small sample of some of the features that you probably never have used. Even if, like me, you've used it for many years, you probably only used a small sample of its features. This is the website. You can find out more details about that. And if I just call up the article on my website, Carlos, I'm just going to enlarge that a little bit. Okay, so top 10 advanced features of MC Tools.
Well, I don't pronounce well MC Tools. I don't know how to pronounce it correctly in English.
Okay.
So next month we are going to see 10 features or 10 advanced features or hidden features of MC Tools, which are the list over there. First, we are going to talk about the portable edition, because not only you have a setup to install MC Tools, you can also have a portable edition just in case you cannot install setups in your IT environment because you are forbidden to install things, so you can use that portable edition. Then we are going to see how to customize toolbars, how to put buttons of MC Tools on built-in toolbars of the VBA editor, or how to create a new toolbar and put buttons of MC Tools over there. Then we are going to see how to use keyword expansions or code templates, because you have a code library with code templates and you can insert them from a tree view, but you can also type some keyword associated with a code template and you invoke a keyboard shortcut, and those letters of the keyword are replaced by the whole code template. So you can type much faster. We are going to see also how there's a review for development environment settings. This is like policies that you may want to have in your VBA editor. For example, you may want to make mandatory that you declare variables, or you want to make mandatory some tab size or tab width of, for example, 3 characters instead of 4. So you have a review that you want to use to enforce those settings in all your computers, or if you are working inside a team, you can enforce those policies across your team. We are going also how to generate custom HTML documentation, modifying the XSLT template that MC Tools provides. There is a default template, but you can modify it to meet your needs. We are going to see also how to use regular expressions with the find text and the replace text, because this is a popular feature, but not everybody knows about regular expressions, which are much more powerful than the wildcards that you likely know. We are going to see also how to sort code elements in a file, but not manually, moving up and down procedures and functions and so on, but with just one click, because you can define a custom code element sorting, and with one click you can sort all the code elements, all the procedures of a file, and you even have a review that can tell where some file has code elements that are not in the correct order. We are going to see also rules to review the names of the procedures, of the projects, of the events, variables, parameters, and so on, which is the nomenclature rules review. And we have also another review which is to review in programming rules in general. You can review almost everything from the number of parameters of a function, which maybe you don't want too many. You can review the length of the body of a procedure, because maybe you don't want a very long procedures, and you can review a lot of things that you can define rules for all of them. And finally, we are going to see how to automate some of the features of MC tools with VBScript or even PowerShell. For example, you can add line numbers, which is a very popular feature of MC tools, but you can do that with a script. You can develop without line numbers, and just before shipping your database to the customers, you can run a script, and that script can automate the line numbering feature of MC tools. So these are 10 features, or are somewhat advanced, that we are going to see next month.
Right. The good news is that there will be next month a free copy given away. There will also be a reduced price. I think it's 50% off. Is that right, Carlos, for 3 months?
Yes, it is correct. And also MC Tools is free for MVPs or former MVPs, or for teachers and people like that. So just contact me for a complimentary license.
Thank you ever so much. I'm looking forward to that tremendously. If some of you want to see an earlier presentation that Carlos did for the SQL Server with Access group, he skimmed through, I think, all of the different features. There's 60 plus different features there, and he skimmed through all of those at very high speed. So this time he's going to focus on a smaller number of those there. And I'm just going to bring the PowerPoint back up again. And next month, Carlos, you will have a perfect connection.
Okay, looking forward.
So am I. Okay, time to go. Thanks, everybody. See you soon.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye now. Bye.
Good night.